Hello, I'm Shiloh Creed. Welcome to The Author's Mind, where we cover everything to do with fiction. I am so glad that you're here today. We are going to be learning from an absolute powerhouse. His name is W. Terry Whalin. He is a veteran of the publishing world with decades of experience as an editor. He's a former literary agent and the author of more than 60 books. He's helped thousands of writers understand what really happens behind the scenes and what gets acquired, what gets rejected, and even why. Today, we're going to pull from Terry's publishing insider wisdom, and we're going to draw that into the world of fiction craft, how we write novels that people want to read and that sell really well. We're also going to learn how to get the attention of publishers, agents, and readers. I am so excited about today's episode. Terry, thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have coming up that's new for you this year.
Oh, Shiloh, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to have this conversation with you. I'm in publishing because books change people's lives. And I know that firsthand because when I was a sophomore in college at any university, I had no faith at all back then. And I was sitting at my old Royal typewriter trying to get my fingers on the right keys. And I kept making mistakes. And every time I made a mistake, I said to myself, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. This little blonde-haired girl that was sitting next to me said, "Oh, Terry, don't say that, because one of these days when you really need Jesus, you'll call out for him and he won't be there." And I thought, what's this? I'm a Christian. I go to church when I'm at home. I read the Bible in church when I'm at home. I really knew nothing about Christianity back then, Shiloh. And so she encouraged me to go to this little bookstore a couple blocks off the Indiana campus. They had pretty cards and posters. Maybe I'd find a book that interested me. So I wandered down there a couple of days later. I bought this book called Jesus the Revolutionary. I thought, how in the world could Jesus be a revolutionary? I took that book back to my room, read that book. It showed me a different side of Jesus than I'd ever seen before. And about that time, some people invited me to this Jesus People gathering in downtown Bloomington. And they were sitting on little scraps of carpets with little candles lit. And those people in that room had something that I didn't have. So I got a Bible, changed the direction of my life. I thought I was going to be a newspaper reporter like on the Chicago Tribune or the Indianapolis Star. Instead, I joined this group called Wycliffe Bible Translators. And I trooped off to Guatemala. I worked among the Southwest Cachiquel people. I have a New Testament that's on my shelf that wouldn't have existed if I hadn't done that kind of stuff. And then I wandered back to my writing and started writing for magazines. I've written for more than 50 magazines. I've been a magazine editor. I started writing books. My first book was a little children's book that I did for David C. Cook because I was at a writer's conference, and an editor told me, she said she had a problem. And I always listen when they tell me this kind of thing. And she said, "Terry, we're supposed to help kids learn about the world. And I have all these books at David C. Cook, and we don't have a single one that tells that kind of thing. What kind of ideas do you have?" And so I pitched something. I thought, well, back then my kids were little. I was reading picture books. And I knew that Stephen Lawhead, who writes fantasy, had also had a set of children's books. They wrote under Steve Lawhead called Howard Had a Hot Air Balloon, Howard Had a Spaceship. They combined real pictures with a little cartoon character. And I thought, hey, we've got all these pictures at Wycliffe from around the world. What if we combined those real pictures with a little cartoon character to show kids different occupations they could do? She says, "Oh, that's a good idea, Terry. Write that up and send that to me." And so I went home, I wrote it up, and I sent it to her. And back and forth, that ultimately became my first children's book. My first book, period, that came out in 1992, a little book that I did. And Shiloh, what I've learned from going to these writers' conferences, for one thing, got to get to a conference, because that's where you meet a lot of people, you swap cards, you form relationships with people. But now I go to these things as an editor, and I'll sit and I'll listen to people's ideas, and I'll say, "That's a good idea. Write that up and send that to me." Well, what I know from going to these events is probably only maybe 10, 20% of the people that I say that to will actually go home and then send it to me. And
Wow.
so they don't even give themselves a chance. So it's not that you get published when you do that, but at least you've given yourself an opportunity. So follow through and follow up are some of the big things that all of us have to do as writers out there.
Wow. I hear that intimidation is the quickest way to fail. We need, as writers, to put ourselves out there and really take the steps that we need to take. I have been to multiple writers' conferences, not recently, and I thank you for your encouragement to get back into that world. It really is good to rub shoulders with the right people and just immerse yourself in the world of writing. When you are looking at a submission, what are you looking for in those first 60 seconds when your eyes hit the page? What are the things that tell you this novel is worth moving forward with?
I have reviewed thousands of proposals over the years, and I've also interviewed acquisitions editors. And so I ask another fiction acquisitions editor this very question: how do you know when you find a good one? Well, it's subjective. I mean, one editor will love it, the next editor will pass. But basically, you open it up and you read the first sentence, and if it's a good sentence, you read the next sentence. And those of us that have read a lot of stuff, we can tell in a short amount of time whether this person really has the writing talent and the storytelling ability to carry forth with it. So what that tells me is, don't bury your good stuff, over on chapter 2, because they may never get there, in that process. And the other thing that's really important, and I kind of mentioned this to you before we started here, even, is that I believe every writer, whether they're fiction, nonfiction, children's writer, whatever they really need to work on their pitch, which is really a book proposal. Now, that's really your business plan as an author, what you're going to do. So even if you self-publish, I believe you still need that book proposal, because that's where you lay out your plan. Who's your audience? Who's your reader? Why you? What are you going to do to market the book? All those kinds of details are in that plan, and it's a lot of work to put together this proposal. And as an editor, I wrote this book years ago, called Book Proposals That Sell, 21 Secrets to Speed Your Success. And I wrote this book as a frustrated editor, because I'd go to these meetings and it was almost like a dog and pony show. I mean, we had the vice president of sales and marketing, the president of the company, all these people were in the room, and they would make decisions about which books we published and which books we passed on. And sometimes I didn't have the ammunition that I really needed from that author to be able to get them a book contract. So I wrote this book. The first edition of this book has like 150 five-star reviews out there. It's helped people get an agent, get a book contract. But publishing has changed a lot since I wrote that first version. So now I have a revised edition, and people can get the revised edition, the whole book, from me for free. All you do is you go to Book Proposals, plural, bookproposals.ws. And that'll take you to a website where you just put your first name and your email address in, say what kind of version you want, and get the book for me for free. Now, why do I give away my whole book? I give that away because at Morgan James, we've learned that if you get that free ebook from me and start to read that, there's a high probability you're going to turn and buy the print copy of the book. So I lose nothing by giving away that ebook version. And at Morgan James, we give our authors, so they give me, in other words, those email addresses. So I get that to build my email list as well. So there's some real good reasons for you to go get that book proposal book.
Wow. Well, I plan on giving you my email address and signing up for that. I'm going to go do that as soon as we're done. I absolutely love to learn. And I think that's a hallmark of a writer. You have to be a person who enjoys learning about things, not just things that are interesting to you, but just things. And you have to be really good at asking questions. That's really what allows, I think, a fiction author to dig into the details of the story and move it forward is that they have questions about everything. So I will answer a few of my own questions with your book, I have no doubt, in a few minutes. Now, you were just talking about your book proposal kind of being like your business plan. Do you recommend that authors develop this kind of book proposal before they write the novel or after they write the novel?
I guess it depends on what kind of writer you are, I guess. I mean, in the fiction area, we want to see the full novel before you pitch us, because so many people through the years, whether it depends on whether they're a pantser or
A
an
plotter.
outliner or a
Yeah.
plotter. If they're a plotter, they're probably have written the whole thing ahead of time, which is good because they know how it finishes. A pantser will sometimes write themselves into a corner and not know how the book ends, which is really a bad deal if we've signed a book contract with you and you don't know how your book ends. We can't really
Exactly.
help you in that area. So I think it just depends on how you do it. But before you pitch, you really should have at least a rough outline of how that proposal is going to work for you, because then you'll really know some other details, the hook, the title, the potential other titles, the what you're going to do to market the book, all those kinds of things. I mean, a lot of authors will tell me, well, I thought the publisher picks the title. Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, Shiloh, I've been in rooms where we have this big whiteboard, and editorial, sales, marketing, all these people are there in the room. We're trying to figure out what in the world we're going to call this book that we've contracted to publish. Well, the one person that's not in the room when that happens is the author. And I think that's a tragedy, And so you as the author need to really come up with something more than working title, as far as what the title of your book's going to be.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Now, I have published books a lot of different ways. I've got 42 books out now, and I definitely get to submit titles with, some of my books that are with a publisher. I get to kind of submit, and most of the time they take the title that I submit. I really enjoy self-publishing. The books that I control all on my own, man. I do the covers, I do the formatting. I definitely hire editors. I need them. But if there's any problem with that book, it comes back on me. If I didn't market it correctly, if I didn't title it correctly, that's all on me. Personally, I really enjoy that. I don't know how to explain it, that, responsibility maybe of taking care of that book and learning about it, tweaking it, growing it. But as we go forward and learn as writers, I think all of us really, we want to get into that publishing contract. I remember being at a writers conference and they labeled out the pros and the cons to being with a traditional publisher or self-publishing. And by the time I walked out of that room, I was like, you know what? I'm going to self-publish. I'm just not interested in being trad published. But now, where I'm at now, I feel like, I could hand a book over to a traditional publisher and be okay with it, have enough of my own to handle. It's like having 39 children, really.
Right, right.
Everybody's at a different point in their journey.
Well, there is a third option, too. There's self-publishing where you do it all yourself and have total control, and there's traditional, which is harder and harder these days to catch an agent's attention, catch a publisher's attention. And then the third option is really more of a hybrid independent publishing type of thing. And that's the kind of thing that we do at Morgan James. We've been in business 21 years. We've sold 21 million books, 29 New York Times bestsellers.
Wow.
Over 200 times on the USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And I commonly tell people that you can't do that kind of stuff if you're not selling books in the brick and mortar bookstores as well as the online bookstores. I mean, the other day I was looking for one of our book covers. The very first place I found it was at Target.com because we sell books at Target. I mean, we sell books at 180 online platforms.
Wow.
So it's really great to sell your book on your own website and Amazon. Don't get me wrong, but Amazon is only 24% of our overall business. So the
Wow.
way I look at it, you publish with Amazon, you're missing 76% of what we do for the book out there. Um, it's different working with a group like Morgan James because of the broad reach that we have with our books.
And that is a really important point. I think that a lot of hybrid publishers are able to produce a book. They're able to put the cover, the formatting, the editing together for you, and then get the book on the market, but they are not marketers. And I think that's an important point for people who are bringing their work to the table to realize that not every hybrid publisher is capable of marketing. And as I've come through my own journey, that is the one distinction that I really look for working with people is, can they sell? Are they able to sell books, or are they just able to put a book on the market? So I'm really excited to hear about the company that you're working with and how successful they've been. That's amazing.
Well, we're still part of the distinction with Morgan James is that we're in it for the long haul process. We're not just going to give you 3-6 months. We're still coaching authors who came to us in 2005. So, we realize that no publisher does enough. I like what David Hancock says, no publisher does enough, but we do more than most publishers. And I really believe that's true. I mean, we're still coaching authors that came to us like years ago, and because we want to help them, because sometimes it takes a couple of years before something will take off. And
It does.
we've seen it with books over the years.
Wow, that. I really enjoy that. Thank you so much for sharing about Morgan James. That sounds like a really great place for our listeners to head and see what they can make happen. Is there a submission guideline on the website, or
We do have a submission guideline on the website. If you'd use that, I'd encourage your listeners to mention me, because there's a number of other acquisitions people, or they could just send it to me, Terry at morganjamespublishing.com. It's a long URL, but Terry at morganjamespublishing.com would get to me. We are led by Christians. We don't publish all Christian books, but none of our books have any profanity or explicit sex in them. I actually have a profanity checklist, Shiloh, believe it or not, of all kinds of words we're not going to publish at Morgan James. And if I find those words, then I need to talk to the author and make sure they're willing to take them out. And sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So if they aren't, they're not somebody we're going to publish at the end of the day.
Well, I honor you for that. I write all Christian fiction that's wholesome, so I'm 100% there with you. I think the world needs more good content.
Absolutely.
All fiction is a balance between dark and light, and that is really what makes a book phenomenal, is when there's dark versus light. So it is possible to show the darkness without being dirty. So our world definitely needs it. A lot of fiction authors, picking their comp authors is like the last thing that they'll ever think of doing. And it's something that I really dislike doing personally. But how do you use those competitive titles in your kind of in the scope of what you do as an editor and acquisitions agent? How do comp authors play into that?
I think those comparable authors is a very important part of the process, because it shows that you understand who your competition is in the marketplace. I know when I worked at Howard Books, I was with them when they were Howard Publishing and they became Howard Books, an imprint of Simon Schuster. I know at Simon Schuster, we couldn't even turn in our contract stuff until we had those comparatives. So if the author didn't do it, I would have to do it to be able to get them a contract. So it's very important for every author to kind of visualize their book in the bookstore. What sections they're going to be at, what books are on either side of those are your competition at the end of the day. It's that simple. So yeah.
Right. Right. Interesting way to look at that. And it's sometimes those details for me as an author that are hard. Writing a back cover blurb is incredibly difficult. Choosing a comp author is, oh my goodness, it's like pulling teeth. It's very difficult, but that's just those are the things that you have to do to get through. Oh my
It is.
goodness.
It is. We
What?
all have to learn how to do that stuff. I
We
remember
do.
writing back covers for another publisher years ago. I think they paid me $50 for a back cover that I wrote for them. They'd send me the book, I'd read the book, and then write a back cover. But I've learned how to do all that kind of stuff through the years.
What is a structural flaw that you see in otherwise well-written novels that comes up a lot? Like, what is the one thing you wish you could tell authors to change in what they're doing?
I don't know that I have a single thing there. At the end of the day, the story has to flow right, has to have the right kind of ending. And the other thing that's happened here, even in the last few years since the pandemic, is the price of paper has gone up quite a bit, and so people are reading shorter and shorter books. So I know at Morgan James, I mean, we used to have like 100,000 word limit. Now it's closer to 80,000 words for our novels because of the way the retail prices have crept up.
I've worked with one publisher who really is on top of those kind of details. Data is his thing, is what he loves, and paper prices is something that comes up a lot. And that really changes your income with royalties and everything. So something to really pay attention to. I am a ruthless cutter of words. I tend to cut. I'll go through and cut, and then I'll go through and cut again. My husband will be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! That's enough cutting. We need them. We need some words there." But that is one thing that can be helpful if you are very wordy and too much explanation of what's going on. It can really slow down your novel and make your novel cost more to sell as well, which is definitely not desirable. Every book has to go into the world of 33 million other books that are available to readers. What do you think an author can do to really make their work stand out enough to get noticed by an agent, a publisher, an editor, or a reader?
The thing that I've learned sort of the hard way in this situation is that every one of us as authors have to be working on our own readership and our own things that we can control. I mean, I'll talk to authors and they'll say, well, my audience is over on Facebook, or mine's on LinkedIn or YouTube. Well, don't get me wrong, those are all good platforms. But within the business, we call those rented platforms because I don't control any of those things. As a matter of fact, knowingly or unknowingly, I could violate their terms and be kicked off tomorrow. So you don't want to build your stuff there. You really want to build your stuff on your own website, your own blog, your own newsletter, things that you can control. And so you've got to be just thinking about all those kinds of things, because at the end of the day, you really want to be able to touch readers with your material and have those kind of connections. And I think the numbers on the traditional side keep growing as far as, what kind of numbers they're looking for in an author in order to be able to take them on, because at the end of the day, they're held accountable. All those editors and salespeople are held to account, and if they don't produce, they're not going to keep them. At the end of the day, they're going to be looking for another job. So they have to make good choices on their side of things as well.
Exactly. And that is something that I regret looking back on my career. With 42 novels, I've written under 4 different pen names, been very wide and spread out. And that wasn't really my plan. It just kind of happened that way. But I also have not built much of my own platform like that. Like this year is my year for really starting to build my own email list specifically and really focus on that. Last year, I was all into marketing and ads, paid ads. And that definitely burnt me out. Got over that pretty fast. But really, everybody says email is gold. That is where your powerhouse is. So, absolutely is never too early to start building your email list. And it's definitely never too late. Take it from me. I should have had a massive list by now, but I'm still in the beginning of stages of doing that. So, let's push today. All of us who have books or are going to have books, we need to have an email list. Yes, it is a lot to handle. It's a lot to put together. You have to make a lot of decisions about software that you'll use, and you'll have to pay to use some of it. That is what being an author is all about. Make those commitments and move forward. You will never regret your email list, for sure. So thank you, Terry, for that. That's really good advice. What do you think is the biggest misconception that fiction authors have about what a traditional publisher will do for the novel after it's acquired?
I think a lot of people believe that their publisher is very invested in their book. And don't get me wrong, we are invested. We invest thousands of dollars behind the scenes into these books that we publish. But really, it's the author that has the greatest passion for their book. So I always encourage you to understand that element and use that as, your fuel to be telling people about your book and everything. I mean, my wake-up experience that I had as an author, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. A couple of those, they paid me six-figure advances. They were making pretty books. They were putting them in the bookstores. But when you write for traditional publishers, once a year or maybe quarterly, they will send you your royalty statement to see how your books are doing. Well, all my statements back then were in the minus category. And so I knew I must be doing something wrong. I wasn't making any money with my books. And about that time, this was in 2007, Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul, had this event out in Los Angeles called Mega Book Marketing University. He invited me to come. I was a literary agent back then, so I went out there during the event and I took pitches from people. But I sat there throughout the whole, with all 400 other people, and listened to the different speakers. I was trying to figure out what in the world was I doing wrong with my own efforts there. And one of the speakers there was Jack Canfield, the other co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul. Jack has this book that I have on my shelf called The Success Principles. And the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. Once some agent, some publisher, some marketing person, please, somebody other than us. But during that event, Shiloh, I decided to take 100% responsibility for my own success. And I realized how little I was doing. Sure, I had a terrywhalin.com website, but I was doing almost nothing else to be telling people about my book. So back then, blogging was new, so I started blogging. Well, I've been blogging every week for years, and I have over 1,800 entries that are in my blog. I have this little thing that searches for my name out there online, and over a year ago, I found this article that listed the top 27 content producers. Now, there were people like, Seth Godin and Ryan Holiday and Jeff Goins, people like that. But my name was among those top 27 people. And it's not that I'm doing anything magical here. I'm just being persistent and consistent. And those are things that all of us can do as writers. Sure, have a newsletter, but send that newsletter out on a consistent basis. Those types of efforts will really pay off for you in the long run. People forget those Chicken Soup for the Soul guys, they were rejected over 160 times before they finally found a publisher. They found this little publisher in Florida that was going to publish the first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. They told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million books in the first year. Their publisher laughed at them. They thought that was a ridiculous idea. They hadn't sold 1 million copies of anything. It took them a year and a half.
Wow.
Because they practiced what they called the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to be telling people about their book. Now, some of it didn't take a lot of time, but there's dozens of things that you can do. My friend John Kramer has this book, 101 Ways to Market Your Book. So they took John's book and took it apart and tried to do as many of those things as they could. That trying and failing is a part of the journey that we're all on as writers. We have to try different things. And I loved what you said about curiosity a while back, because we all have to be curious, keep learning, and trying these different things to find your audience. So a lot of fiction authors, for example, they sell to book clubs. And if you go to Goodreads, they have their own system. They have millions of people over on Goodreads. They have their own system for book clubs. So if you want to reach book clubs, you've got to write a reader guide that you put in the back of your book with a series of questions. And then people get your book and they go, oh, this author, they understand that I need those questions as a leader of a little book group. Oh, and this author's willing to Zoom or Skype in or get into my book group. They think that's great. So offer those kinds of things. Sure, you sell maybe a dozen, 20 books at a time, but there are people that make a lot of money selling their books over and over to book groups. It's all a matter of figuring out that right formula for you and to be able to grow your audience and reach new people all the time. There's lots of opportunity out there. I've heard, I was on a webinar a while back that Marcus Duhay, when he was the chief executive officer at Penguin Random House, the biggest publisher in the world, he said that we live in one of the greatest times in human history since Gutenberg invented the printing press. And I really think that's true, Shiloh. Think of the people that we can reach, like with our little phone that we've got in our pocket. It's incredible, the type of technology and world that we live in. We just have to figure out how to seize these opportunities in our life and take advantage of them.
I absolutely adore the story of Chicken Soup for the Soul and those guys being bound and determined to make something happen with their book. I have a copy of your book here, the 10 Publishing Myths. The foreword is by Jerry B. Jenkins. He said that the Left Behind series has sold over 60 million copies. But that series, when it came out, that was his 125th book that he had published. So think about that. He had worked so hard on 124 other books before he had this huge success story. And it makes me think of Sylvester Stallone taking his screenplay for Rocky around. And he was rejected by every single film director that existed. And then he went through them all again and was rejected again. Got to the point where his electric was turned off and he sold his dog. He was in that dire of straits that he sold his dog for $10,000. I don't know what kind of dog he had that made it worth that much money. And he finally went back to one more director. And the thing that had gotten him rejected over and over again was that he was insisting that he was going to be Rocky. And all of them were like, no. I might take this script, maybe, but no way are you going to play Rocky. And he was adamant. And finally, he got this guy to give him a $10,000 advance for his script, Rocky. And he went and bought back his dog. And now that movie is an icon. So take these stories to heart and don't give up. Keep moving your writing forward, because you never know when that break is going to come. You never know when you're going to open your eyes one morning and find out that things have changed because you were consistent and you kept showing up. And that's one of the things that the Lord really spoke to me this year was give. I don't usually do like a word for the year or whatever, but man, this year it is give. And that's why I'm here doing this podcast, is because this is a way I can give to authors, give them some value and encourage them.
And Shiloh, I want people to realize that I wrote this 10 Publishing Myths book because there's a lot of misconceptions that people have about the writing business. And so what I really tried to do was take some of the big ones and help give them at the end of every chapter a practical way that they can actually do something. A lot of the publishing world's totally outside of our control. I mean, I can't make a bookstore carry your book or a reader go buy your book. But what you can do is this newsletter thing that we were talking about. You control that. You could put that together, send that out on a regular basis. So I set up a website where people can get this book from me for only $10, including the shipping, along with over $200 worth of free bonuses. Now, these aren't just funky bonuses. I mean, one of my bonuses, I interviewed a guy that self-published his book and sold thousands of copies of his book to public libraries. People don't think about that. Public libraries have money. There's over 9,000 public libraries. He goes through the whole bit about how he did this, how he called librarians, pitched his book, packed it up with a little invoice, and sold lots of books doing that. I mean, that's another opportunity that all of us have. So I hope people will go to publishingoffer.com, publishingoffer.com, and you'll see where you can get my book for, including the shipping, for only $10.
What an awesome opportunity. So be sure to check those out. Go there, sign up, do the things, and start to learn. I am super pumped myself to get to kind of jump into your world, Terry. When you see a pitch for a novel, what are the most common ways that authors fail to really tell an agent or editor what's inside of their novel, and how can they fix that?
Well, they really need to, have a really good hook or intriguing sentence. That would probably be one of the real keys that they could do in this process, and follow that up with a well-crafted novel and a well-crafted proposal. Because, like I said, people don't follow through and send it at the end of the day is really also one of the keys.
That is so important. And how you show up matters. Are you prepared? Did you come before you were ready? Did you finish the work that you were supposed to have done at this stage? All of those things are speaking to the people that you're looking to work with. You are communicating your work ethic, your desire level, your commitment level. Those things that you hope aren't seen are very clearly seen in how you show up. I will say this about editing. Once you have been through your own novel a few times, it's very, very hard to see what's actually on the page because your brain sees what should be there. It's very easy to miss mistakes, and you absolutely cannot beat fresh eyes on your work. So get somebody who knows what they're doing to have a look at your work and help you out before you take that huge step of proposing your novel to an editor or agent. Terry, we've talked about persistence and timing, the right publisher kind of at the right time. All of those things work together. How can a novelist really increase their chances of getting an acceptance?
They increase their chances by building those connections to readers, that platform that we talked about. And all of us start small, but we have to really figure out how to build that audience and that connections. And so maybe your way of building connections is to look at your competition, not as competition, but as people that you can build relationships with. So maybe they have a new book that's coming out. You offer to be on their launch team or offer to read their book and write a review for their book. Build those relationships with people. Those kinds of things will really pay off for you in the long run. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that have connections and also have good storytelling skills. And so develop that storytelling ability. Maybe it's writing short stories. I mean, that rather than a full novel. I also have people that pitch me these novels that are like 200,000 words or something. It's like you didn't get the memo as far as the way paper's gone up and the way retail price has gone up, and you're a first-time novelist and you're pitching a 200,000 word novel. It's like, no, we're not going to take that. You got to really explore what the market is taking out there and how you're going to fit into that whole realm.
As self-published authors, you can go out and do what you do and make all the blunders and mistakes that you want to make. But if you want to work in the world of trad publishing, there are definitely certain markers that you need to hit. They're not hard to discover, but you do need to fit inside of that box. It's definitely an interesting journey to continue producing books, keep up with all of the changes in the market, in the readership. You know, our attention span as a society is down to 10 seconds or less now. That changes our world. And I think that it makes books even more important because as humans, we need that attention span. We need to be able to focus and stay on a task. And that's something beautiful for your readers' brain health is to get drawn into your book and stay there. Like as a society, we need more novels that hold people's attention and help them recover from this ultra short attention span that social media and screens are drawing us into. Terry, what do you think about that? And how do you think that authors are changing the world?
I totally agree with you, and even the self-published authors, Shiloh, what many of them don't realize is that through your self-publishing your book, you're still showing your track record of how your book is moving or not moving out there in the market. I mean, years ago when I first started, we didn't have anything like Nielsen BookScan to really monitor the numbers and the sales numbers. But now it's very easy. I mean, it's an expensive subscription to Nielsen BookScan to have that. But publishers and agents with just a few keystrokes can really figure out whether your book is really moving like you're promoting that it's moving or whether it's not. So, yeah, you have to be a truth teller, I guess I'd say at the end of the day, to be able to talk about where you are and what you need and make the right kind of choice as far as which way you go.
Right. There's no way to hide that anymore. We can't fabricate data like that anymore. Really interesting point. Terry, one more question. When you are looking at an author, let's say that you've received a pitch from them and it's something that you're interested in, something you think could work. Do you go online and just Google their name and see what's there? How important is their online presence to you?
Yeah, the online presence is very important. A while back, I got this thriller from an author that I loved. I loved this novel. It was really well done, well told, right kind of length, all that kind of stuff. As a part of the author process, I get my author on the phone and I talk to them about who they are and what kind of online presence they have and all that kind of thing. When I reached that with this author, he had nothing. He'd been in the military, then he went into the Secret Service. So I totally get it. But he had nothing, and he didn't say, "Yeah, I don't have anything, Terry, but I'm going to start a LinkedIn profile and a Facebook and an Instagram, and I got a little kid that's going to help me do all this." I mean, he didn't say any of that kind of thing. So basically, my colleagues, when they looked at it, said, "Yeah, this is really well written, but we're going to pass." Mm. And so they passed on it. And David Hancock, our founder at Morgan James, usually tells me that it's 80% the author, 20% the manuscript, because we can fix the manuscript. We can get an editor or a ghostwriter. Somebody can fix that manuscript. We can't always fix the author. So we've got to find good authors as part of the search. So people need to really understand that relationship that you're building with people day in and day out. And that is really going to pay off for you.
Wow, that's beautiful and hard. I know for us as fiction authors, we want to be the people who just hide out and hang out with our imaginary characters. Today's world that does not equal success as an author. You have to get out into the real world. You have to put yourself out there. People want to see a face along with that name. They want to know who you are. They want to know how that sausage is made. They want to know how you write and why you write and your heart behind what you do. So if you haven't started an online presence today, I hope that this podcast has encouraged you, shoved you a little bit in the right direction to start putting yourself out there even before your book is out. Now is the time to begin that work of being an author. That is another side that we don't get to say no to. We don't get to just say, well, I don't like that part of it. Terry, I've had a great time chatting with you today. So many interesting perspectives. Thank you. What would you say to that first-time author?
I guess my advice would really be to encourage them to get to a writer's conference and get to the right kind of conference. Bring some business cards. Don't expect you're going to get a book contract going to your first writer's conference, but do bring some pitches, swap business cards with people. Really go there to learn and to meet people. So, for example, in May, I'm going to be at the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference in Asheville, North Carolina. Pick out those significant conferences, but all of us as writers are mostly introverts, but at these events, I don't stay in my room very much. I'm usually out there in the hallway or in the lounges or in the cafeteria talking with people, because that's our time. That's our opportunity to be able to do that kind of thing. So seize that opportunity. It's totally out there for you.
Well, I'm encouraged. I haven't been to a writer's conference in a while now. Asheville is not that far from where I am at. Now I want to go and get a ticket for that. Oh, Terry, it has been a great time. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I am going to have a lot of links in the show description. So please make sure that you go and you grab Terry's free book, grab his $10 book for the 10 publishing myths. You want to absorb that knowledge from him. Make sure that you connect with him, that you get on his newsletter. Will move your career forward. If you as a listener have an author you would love to see interviewed here, let me know at shiloh@shilohcreed.com. Or if you have a subject that you really want to dig into, you have questions about writing, just let me know what that is, and we will try to cover that on a future episode. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I hope that you go and write your book.